Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we are on the 12th shloka of chapter 4 of this meditation and mantras, where we discussed in the last session about the various parts of the individuals that create what appears to be different properties and characteristics of the world, separating Prakriti from Purusha. So the existence, what we have described last time, the existence is within you only. That means the world is you only. That means your perception is your own world. So the differences of various paths, what we have discussed, is because we separate Prakriti from the Purusha, or we separate whether it is Prakriti and Purusha is Sankhya Yoga. In Sankhya Yoga, Prakriti Purusha they say, and in Adhyatma they say that Brahman, and Vedas and Upanishads say that Brahman and Maya, and in the Tantric world they said that Prakriti, Shiva and Parvati. So, all are same. Bhagavan. We also discussed about the Paramanu in the last session, is it not? Yeah. From the Anu, very smallest item only we identified the world. No, it has expanded and created the world. When you go into the Sankhya Yoga or in the Adhyatma studies, in Vedantic studies, you will find Shivalinga is a representation of the Anu, Paramanu, Anu, which doesn't have any shape and form. No, Gunatita. So Gunatita is why the Shivalinga, the puja to Shivalinga is done because of the Sukshma Bhava of the Brahman. It is the representation of the Sukshma Bhava of the Brahman. Brahman we cannot see and we don't know how it looks and whether it has a shape and form. According to Shastras, according to Vedanta, Veda, there is nothing which has got shape and form is there. That's why it is known as the consciousness. The highest consciousness or absolute consciousness is known as the absolute. That even the consciousness also doesn't have any shape and form. It is there, it is existing, it cannot be seen, it cannot be felt, it cannot be identified. It is immeasurable. It cannot be measured. It cannot be measured. So there is no sima for that. There is no earmark. I mean the areas or there is no boundaries for that, beyond boundaries. So can we call it as a akara? We don't know. Can we call it as a shape and form? Akara and vikara? We don't know, because what is an akara? Akara, specifically according to the grammatical explanation given in the languages, is that what you can see, that what you can measure, that what you can feel, what you can touch, what you can hear, can be akara, some sort of akara. That which is beyond all these things, we cannot say there is an akara for that. It's why we say Brahman doesn't have an akara, because it neither can be seen, nor can be heard, nor can be touched, nor can be tasted, nor can be smelled. none of the Panchendriyas, that is Indriyas or the supreme of the Indriya, also cannot identify or feel. This is why it is known as Brahman, and this cannot be there. So what happens? In order to pray for a normal human being who has not experienced the spiritual experiences of inner source of him, inner force of him, or inner self of him, beyond the mind and antakarana, intellect and the sharira and the indriyas, he has to focus on something, then only he can hold on to something. He cannot just fly in the air and find out the Brahman, because his mind and his indriyas, his intellectual preparation is not yet ready for identifying that which doesn't have a shape and form, that which doesn't have an akriti, that is seen through or experienced through the Panchendriyas that he has got. That which can be seen by the Panchendriyas are identified as bhutas. From the Paramanu only these bhutas have been expanded. But from where this Paramanu has come is that which is the travel beyond, that's what we explained in the last class. Travel beyond that Paramanu, which comes to a stage where it is indivisible as far as one's capability is concerned. It is not indivisible, it can be still divisible. How long it can be divided, nobody knows. Yes. How far it can be divided from Paramanu, Anu, Paramanu, 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 how many times it can be divided depending upon the capacity. Thus, one has the capacity. Probably traveling through that division, and you will find one day that the state of indivisibility probably is known as that which is the Brahman, where it cannot be divided, where it doesn't have a shape, it cannot be divided, it cannot be measured, it cannot be calculated or everything. So this Tattva, Brahma Tattva, so the Shivalinga, puja done to the Shivalinga is that to the Sukshma Bhava of the Brahman is Shiva. That auspiciousness we call it, Shivam. It is not Shiva actually, it is Shivam. Shivam is the one, you see. That Shivam is the one where the puja is done. To that, where the formless, shapeless, beyond. Cannot be measured. So is the continuation what I have talked about last time about identification of the Brahman. So this can be called as Maya. When I created a representative sample or a representative form and shape of that formless and shapeless is called Maya. That which is the truth is that formless and shapeless. From that truth, I draw an inference out of my imagination capability of thought, thinking. I created a shape and form representing the shapeless and formless is called Maya. That means Maya is your activity, vritti they called it. That is why in Ashtanga Yoga, in Patanjali Yoga Shastra we have learned vritti. In the Patanjali Yoga or the Shiva Sutra, in the Patanjali Yoga, the first one they said what? Chitta vritti nirodha, they said. Chitta vritti nirodha. Vritti is that activity that is being done. Chittam is that consciousness. Chitta vritti. Through which the activity, through we reach a consciousness. Nirodha, so when the activity, the coming out of it. We have explained it earlier also. Chitta vritti nirodha, I think it is in Shiva Sutra also, it is there, Chitta vritti nirodha. So Patanjali Yoga Sutra also is there. Chittavritti Nirodha is there. So what I am trying to tell you is that Sukshma Bhava and this Sthula Bhava and the invisible. So how to identify this? So these identifications, people in the world have been created because of their separating Prakriti from Purusha. When you separate Prakriti from Purusha, it will appear to be something independent of Purusha. It will be identified. That's called Maya, that's called the Prakriti, that is called the Karma, that is called the whatever it is, existence, things like that. But the Mula Prakriti of the Prakriti is that Purusha. From there, the projection from the Purusha only the Prakriti has come. But when I identify the Prakriti as separate, we will not understand the auspiciousness of the Prakriti because everything is there. Visha is there, Amrita is also there. How will you identify it? So you get confused with that Prakriti. If you separate it from the Purusha, but I attach that with the Purusha, then I identified everything belongs to Brahman. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahman. That's all. So that comes to it, because everything that is existing is all from there only. It's only a sort, how the Amrita has come, from the Amrita only Visha might have come. Functioning on that or multiplication of that, as I told you, from the Ekam to the Anekam, that plurality, when you divide things into plurality, you will find so many things. Suppose you take a bhuta, a metal, a material, you divide it into that. In a laboratory, you identify what are all the characteristics of this. You can there will be about few of them, 10, 15 of them. But 10, 15 of them cannot be seen here. But when you identify them, when you multiply them, that means in plurality, you will find many things. Out of that, if you take one particle of that plurality and try to understand, you will be confused. Visha is one part of it. Amrita is one part of it. Something else is one part of it. Like of the world. So, if I don't understand the totality of the world, the bifurcations that has been created by the world, we get confused. That's why we do not know what is in the existence in the world. That's why each individual is seen as different. Each material is seen as different. Each guna is seen as different. Each function is seen as different, because we are not seeing it in a totality. We are seeing it only a divided portion of it. You have to identify in totality. When a human being is identified in totality. You take only the eyes, you can take only the nose, you can only the ear, then how? No. This is what we are doing in the world. This is how we are identifying the world. That means we are separating. You understood? No? From where it has come? Why did I say this? That this is what we do. We separate the Prakriti from the Purusha. Then try to understand it and identify it. So you will find there are various paths. So each one is identifying this as different, and each one takes different paths. Now you can imagine how long will it take to connect from one particle to the other particle and come to the main particle of the Brahman. It takes a lot of time. That is why the studies have been made and studies have to be understood. So the focusing of the mind, eliminating the indriyas and the dashendriyas, and focusing on the absolute, like Adi Shankara said, concentrating on that should be, then only we will be in a position to identify the Brahman. So the purpose of this identification is that to make us understand the division that is done through the Bhautika, and through that division when you travel, when you work on that, in Karma Yoga you work on that. Through that you come to the Jnanam. From the Jnanam you identify through the Jnanam you identify the totality, and from that you go into the Sannyasa Yoga. From there the truth, Sannyasa Yoga. Identify the truth, then you go to the moksha, mukti, whatever you call it. This is how it works. So the 13th shloka now. Te Vyakta Sushmaha Gunatmana. They, whether manifest or unmanifest, exist in the three gunas. All that is incorporated in the, whatever we have explained, all in the Prakriti, when you separate it, they are all incorporated in the three gunas. They means that what we have told previous. They, whether manifest or unmanifest, exists in the three gunas. The properties or characteristics of the world, as man sees them, are actually manifestations of the qualities of the Prakriti, manifestations of the qualities of the Prakriti, which is known as Sattva, Raja, Tama gunas. The properties and characteristics of the world, whatever we are seeing, they are seeing different because of our manifestation of the qualities through these gunas. So the gunas, they said it's a manifestation. Manifestations of the quality of the Prakriti. It's a manifestation. The unmanifest is that it is the Purusha, inherent in that. The manifested part in that is that gunas. That's why in the Prakriti we say everything exists in the Prakriti. That means all the gunas are existing in the Prakriti. We are all seeing everything through the gunas only. When in a person, in our mind, we have got all the three gunas. In everyone, there are all the three gunas. It's only the proportion of them are different, that's all. If the Tamo guna is too much, then his activity is different. Rajo guna is the one which is taking the lead. It works in a different way. If it is Sato guna, in a different way. All the gunas are there. But what happens? We will have to slowly convert the Tamo gunas into Raja, Rajo gunas into the Sato. And from the Sato guna only, we will be in a position to go beyond the gunas, gunatita. So we being in the Prakriti, we are entangled with the qualities and characteristics of the gunas, or the three gunas. We cannot avoid it. We are in the Prakriti, and so long we are in the Prakriti. That means, how is it we are in the Prakriti? We said that because your consciousness, unless your consciousness has understood the realities and started functioning on the identification of the self, and find out the higher consciousness which doesn't have any gunas, till then we are entangled in the gunas. So the function in these gunas is there. Even the very good person in this world, will you see that he will be maximum of the Sato guna is there. So what Swamiji wants to tell us is that whether it is manifest or unmanifest, they all exist in these three gunas. So we further go, what happens when we have these three gunas. 14th shloka mentions Parinamaikatvad Astuvatvam. The reality of an object is due to uniqueness in the change. Change of what? Change of the gunas. Each object on the material plane can be identified and called a reality because it is made up of its own unique combination of the three qualities of the nature. Just as any color is a unique combination of the three primary colors, red, yellow and blue. All the colors, like in these three colors, other colors are being made. Every object is identified or called a reality because it is made up of these three unique qualities, combination of three qualities. Sato, Rajo. There are in each and everything these gunas are there. Only thing, the proportion is different, that's all. So we identify an object through these gunas. There are two different parameters are involved in this. One is that the gunas that is involved incorporated in the object. Another is that through the seer or the experiencer who has got the three gunas, depending on that. When the experiencer has got the sato guna, his outlook towards that object will be through the sato guna. If he is in the rajoguna, his vision or viewing will be through the rajoguna, or same way in the tamoguna. This is one part of it. This is how you identify the sato rajo. That's one side. The other side is that the object has got sato rajo and tamoguna. From that you understand which is that. So in whichever manner you identify, this goes into all the three gunas. Whenever these three gunas are involved, our karmas are involved. Through each and every guna, we have to keep on executing our karmas. There cannot be a stop towards that. Constantly we are doing karmas. Constantly we are thinking. Constantly we are doing karmas. And these karmas are based on the gunas that you inherit. When I call it as inherit, it doesn't mean that we inherit from the parents or from others. Inherited by you yourself, inherited by you from your previous janma, from your present janma, from your practices, from your karma balas. That when you, a person who is under a constant dhyanam and constantly focusing on the higher consciousness, his guna, quality of the guna will be totally different than a person who is enjoying or the pleasures of the material life. His outlook will be only through that pleasures. He will not be in a position to identify the reality of the truth. Whereas this man is closer to that. I won't say that's final, but this will be closer to that. So it depends upon the person's efforts and qualities that is inherent in him. He will be seeing the objects or experiencing the objects. A man who has got maximum sato guna in him, he will experience the world through sato guna. He will be always in the status of the happiness, or what we call it as, when we said about the samadhi, status of samadhi, ananda, in panchakoshas, in 5 sheets, panchakoshas, we explained about this. Panchakoshas are division of through which you will be each sheet. From that sheet only you will be experiencing Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanmaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya Kosha. So if a person is enjoying only Annamaya, lower part of the body, that means lower consciousness is in that, he will be experiencing only worldly pleasures, Annamaya Kosha. Pranamaya Kosha is the Rajoguna, that means power and then execution of powers. Pranamaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha, thought, thinking, intellectual capacities. He will be experiencing the world through the intellectual capacities. Okay, that's Manomaya Kosha. Vijnanamaya Kosha, the man who has got Vijnanam. Jnanam is that knowing about the material, knowing about everything, knowing about the Shastras. Vijnanam is that again classifying the Jnanam, identifying the Jnanam and experiencing the Jnanam. Knowing the Jnanam is different, experiencing the Jnanam is different. Knowing the Jnanam is called a Jnani. The one Vijnanamaya Kosha, they said. Vijnana is that you utilizing that Jnanam through, no, that means you are utilizing the Jnanam. You are experimenting and experiencing that Jnanam through for the purpose of living is called you utilizing the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So the person who is utilizing the Vijnanamaya Kosha, he can identify the beyond the limit of the mana and intellect. See, that's Vijnanamaya. Through that, when he experiences that through the Vijnanamaya Kosha, then the result of the Vijnanamaya Kosha is that Anandamaya Kosha. So these are all again divided into the gunas. That means in each individual these capabilities are incorporated. If through these incorporated only, one is experiencing the world. So the world which is experienced by you is not the world experienced by the next person or the other person. Each one is looking at the world in a different way. That means world is that again, as I told you in 2-3 classes before, world is again, it is that what you experience through the Panchendriyas, by your own Panchendriyas. That's called the world. There is no ready-made world. The ready-made world is only that Prakriti, which has got all the qualities, which is in the absolute truth and which is reality and which is supported and projected from the Purusha. Okay? This is why he said about the reality of an object is due to uniqueness in change. Each object on the material plane can be identified and called a reality because it is made up of its own unique combination of the 3 qualities of nature, just as any color, this one like that. So what he wants to explain is that the Prakriti being identified or Maya being identified. What is the basis of these explanations? You should understand that. We started from that. The perception of yours, you have divided the characteristics and properties of the Prakriti, dividing the Prakriti from Purusha. That means Prakriti identified out of Purusha without attaching to the Purusha. Then these things happen. That's the connection of it. So in the Prakriti, when you identify it, this happens. 15th shloka says, Vastu samye chitta bhedat tayor vibhaktaha pantaha. Vastu samyata, the object being the same, the apparent difference between 2 perceptions is due to different minds, separate paths. This we have explained just now. Vastu samyata, the object remains the same, but when it is perceived by the more than one mind, there immediately arise varying views of the object. This is due to different paths of each individual. The word path alludes to the fact that all are traveling towards realization of the self. And it is the individual attitudes or karmic situation that determine how a person sees something. We have explained just now about this only. Vastu samyam, that means the object being the same, the difference between the 2 perceptions. Each individual, I told that last time, that each individual sees the world or object in a different way is because of his own qualities. Based on his qualities, he will be viewing the object. He will be understanding the object. One will say the world is full of problems and sufferings. Another will say the world is wonderful. Another will say the midway of it, or each one will explain the world according to his own perceptions. But what actually the world is none of them. Actually the world is none of them. None. No world actually. The world is a field that is created by you for execution of your own karmas. So you can improvise your world. Through your perception, you can improvise your own world. It is not the world is separate from you, even though we think or we experience the world as separate from you. Through the conscious mind, where the ignorance has crept in because of non-identification of the existence of the Brahman, we start feeling they are all different. But when you can develop the quality, that means that is why the meditation is required. Through the tapasya, through the understanding of Shastras and Vedas and Upanishads, through the Guru, through the learned, through the auspicious, and you do upasana, you cannot. Then now nobody can induct these things in the sense. You have to do an upasana. You have to concentrate. You have to be constantly be at. You can perceive it. That means everything has to be perceived. That's why he said that it depends upon the capability of the perception that individual has. So through that only he will be perceived. That through the gunas only he will be perceiving. So if I have to perceive better, if I have to perceive different, I have to change my gunas. If I remain in the same three gunas of mine in different variations, that proportions that I have already created due to my past experiences, previous life and karma balas, we have a particular pattern of the division of these three gunas. But this division of these three gunas I can improvise upon. If it is tamo to rajo, rajo to sato, or from tamo to sato gradually. They all can be increased. During the process of our living, our activity, our execution of karmas, we are supposed to improvise upon our tamogunas, convert the maximum tamogunas into rajos, maximum rajos to sato guna. Then only we will be in a position to perceive the world as different. Why should I perceive the world as different than what I am seeing today? Because today you are seeing the world with all of sufferings. You have got a lot of problems, you have got a lot of sufferings, you have got a lot of worries, you have got this, you have got that. Unfulfillment, all these things are there. But when you change your perception of seeing the world, then all these things, that which is all myths, which is not actually there, it's all because of the ignorance, because of non-understanding, ignorance or avidya. These are all happening. So to remove this ignorance and avidya, we will have to improvise upon the qualities in us. So through that improvised quality in us, that is satoguna in us, when I start looking at the world, the perception of yours will be totally different from that gunas, through that satogunas. Then what happens? Most of these ignorances that has happened during the rajogunas, accumulation of rajo and tamoguna, will get automatically dissolved and vanished when I when I start perceiving through satoguna. Like we did not know how an aeroplane flies till the time a person has studied the flying technology and then aircraft engineering, aero engineering and all the principles of that. Till then he doesn't know how to fly. We all get surprised when a satellite has been released, and then we all see in the television. We don't understand the absoluteness of it, but we all look at with the amazement, not understanding how is it happening actually, how it can travel up to the moon, how it can go into the orbits, and all those explanations what they are given. But a person who is already knowing about it, he is looking at it in a different manner. We are looking at it as surprise and then amazement and then a sort of not knowing the inherent qualities of it. But a person who has made it and who is actually flying that, he knows everything. He knows what is going to happen next and what will not happen, what will happen. So his perception is different, same way. When we were children, our perception of the world was different. When we grow up gradually, our perception of the world also has changed. World was same when we were born, the world was same, and when we are now is also the same world, you see. But how I looked at it when I was a small child, it's nothing, very small for me. My world is my father, my mother, my play, toys, and then around my friends, whatever it is. And that is my world, that's all. I did not know some other town, some other country, some other places, some forests, some rivers, some sea, ocean has existed. And I am not bothered about it also. And I did not know. Am I bothered? Were we worried about that? No, I did not know there was an ocean and all. The day I see an ocean, I get, yes, it was a surprise for me, added to my knowledge, that's all. Added to my perception. Okay, that also I included in my world. This also I included my world. Gradually we include it in the world. So, who has included? You have included. So while including the world, depending upon the gunas that is inherent in you, you include them. Oh, the sea is dangerous. Somebody includes the world, sea is dangerous. No, you should not go nearby that. Another he says that, oh, wonderful sea. Somebody says, no, I want to travel in the sea. Somebody says, I want to dive into the sea and want to see what is below the sea, from where it has come. So many perceptions, is it? They are all based on your practical experiences that you have inherent in you. You have created that, whatever you have created. That's what. So in Bhautika Jivan, that we can understand this. In the same way, through the understanding and through education, through spirituality, through identifying the jnanam, and through the shastras and Vedas and practices, and through the meditations, we can improvise upon the improving the qualities that we have from Tamo to Sato Guna, and we can have the perception of the world is as different. We say no, oh, he's stuck in his own world. There's a proverb, we normally, in common conversation, I think we use this word, oh, he's stuck in his own world. You see? He's stuck in his own world. Everyone is stuck in their own world, actually. Who is not stuck in their own world? He doesn't want to come out of it. He doesn't want to release it unless, yes, that is why these guidances are required. When you have got these guidances, you will understand that we are all stuck in our own world. That is not right. We have to change. Because the world is not changeable. It is you who is changeable. So when you change your own perception, you can experience why should you change? Somebody may ask, oh, let me live in my own world. I don't want anything else. No, that is not right. No. Why should you change? Because I have to perceive the world through the Sato Guna. I have to perceive the world through Gunatita. Then only I will get liberation from this. The liberation is from the karmas. The liberation is from vritti. The liberation is from chitta, consciousness also. The liberation is from that. As I told you some time back that when we were discussing about the desires, when we are through the desires and other things, we create ahankara in us. When we are totally relieved of this ahankara, we have got Brahma Sakshatkara. That's all. Brahma Jnanam, Brahma Sakshatkara. That's why Adi Shankaracharya said that while you are in this body itself, you can attain the Brahma Sakshatkara. Because while being in the body, with the mind and with the intellect, with all those things, what happens? When you can change your perception of seeing the world through Sato Guna or beyond the Gunas, what happens? Your ahankara totally is gone. The more and more you are attached to Rajoguna and Sato Guna, even to some extent in Sato Guna also. A certain extent in Sato Guna, more in Rajoguna, much more than that in Tamo Guna, we have the ignorance in us. So through that perception, when you look at the world, you will be experiencing only that. So Adi Shankara says that you rise above. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. Mrityu and Janma is not only, he doesn't mean about Sharira, Mrityu only. Jananam and Maranam is that again. Mrityu is that if you do not understand the realities and truth and all that, is one's Mrityu, that's all. So Jananam, you can create again a Jananam from a Mrityu. After Mrityu, a Jananam has to take place. Let there be a Mrityu for the Tamoguna. Let there be a Mrityu for the Rajoguna. Let there be a Mrityu for Satoguna also. Then you reach the Turiya Avastha, through which you will be identifying or perceiving the world, universe differently. So your experience about the world is totally different. A Swamiji who is experiencing, or a Tapasvi, a Jnani, a Tapasvi, absolutely, Maharishi Vasishtha, Maharishi Vishwamitra, Maharishi Narada, so many people, so many great knowledgeable Yajnavalkya, and so many of them, and his Guru, what's his name? Vaishambhayana. Yeah. Vaishambhayana. So all these gurus, all these people, where did they do the tapasya? Here. Their outlook of the world is totally different. They have got enormous capabilities and capacities. They have got powers, they have got siddhis, from where they got it? Through their perception of seeing the world. Their perception of seeing the world is different. In the same world, when I sit there, you sit there, your perception of seeing the world is totally different. Why is it like that? Is it because the world is different? So what happens to the world? Why am I not seeing that? Because I am not seeing through that gunas. My perception through which I am seeing the world only I am experiencing and I am seeing. So that is very important. So what does it mean? What is Swamiji or great men are trying to tell us? That even though you are born with all these three gunas, God has given the capacity for obtaining all the three gunas in you, and you have got the facility and provision and capability to improvise upon yourself, to experience the world in different way, so that a Manushya can become the Devata. You can fulfill your karmas and karma balas and perceive the world as totally different and very peaceful. There is no mrityu for such a person. It's called Amrutam Gamaya, where the Antakaram or the darkness is when it is removed. The brightness comes, means that Antakara, that ignorance is removed. And when the perception of the world is totally different, whether I die or don't die, doesn't make any difference. I means what? I is then Ahankara. I is nothing but representing the Ahankara. I is representing the Ahankara, means who? The Sharira, Mana and the Antakarana. If the Sharira, Mana and the Antakarana, if I can remove the Mana and Antakarana while having the Sharira, it's also Mrityu is over. There's no Mrityu. Mrityu happens only to this Ahankara. When I am releasing my Ahankara, when I do not have then all the desires, Kamartha, Moksha, Dharmartha, Kama, Moksha. This Purusharthas, Dharmartha, Kama, Moksha are the four Purusharthas. When these Purusharthas are not there, when I am away, above from that, what happens? My perceiving capacity or perception of the world is totally different. It is Swarga, it is Brahmaloka, it is anything you can call it. They are all outwards. It's all here. In your own perception, it is there. It is how you perceive it. Some people are saying that, oh, this world is a naraka. Suffering, naturally. Because he lives in the Tamo Gunajnanam. For him, it is naraka. Each and every move is difficult for him. Each and every thought is difficult for him. That is naraka for him. Swamiji says, change your perception. That's why this understanding the principles through either through Jnana Margam or through Bhakti Margam. Through Bhakti Margam you have to understand very well. Your faith on that, whatever you are doing Bhakti on, should be absolutely very firm, focused, no changes, not temporary. Constantly you should be there on that. Then you will be in a position to identify that what you are believing in is the world. That what you are believing is the universe. That what you are believing is your Atma. It has to come to that. This is called Jnanam also. At a later stage of Jnanam and Bhakti, whatever it is, it all come to the Jnanam of identification of that nothing of these are there. It's a Brahman everywhere. Brahman. That's why Sarvam Brahmamayam. Sarvam Kalvidam Brahman. To reach that stage of perception of seeing the world, at least some from the initial stages of this Trigunas which is there in us, that what we have acquired from the Prakriti while being born, depending upon our experience of the previous life, the qualities, the proportion of the qualities in us are different. Rajo, Tamo and Sato gunas are in different proportion, but these propositions can be, that's why we say through karmas we can change our perception, through karmas we can change or exhaust the karma bhalas. How do we say that? How can you exhaust your karma bhalas? You can exhaust your karma bhalas by executing that, releasing of that karma bhala through sato guna or beyond the guna. If you are repeating, because your karma bhala has happened in the previous janma or in this janma, due to your tamo guna or ignorance, this has happened. Now if I do not change myself from the tamo guna to rajo guna and rajo guna to sato guna, how will I change my practice of doing the same karma in a different way? You will be doing the same karma but in a different way if you improvise your gunas accordingly. You will be doing the same karma, but you will do it through sato guna, the karma bhala is different. When you do it through rajo guna, the karma bhala is different. When you do it sato guna, karma bhala is different. At least you should do through the sato guna. Then we should think of going above that. That is how we exhaust our karmas. How the karma bhalas are removed. You see. Simple example. It's not directly connected, but you can inference, you can draw an inference just to make our common mind understand, child's mind understand. Suppose the jug of water jug is soiled. I drank that water, or somebody drank that water, he fell ill. Now, oh my God, he fell ill, so we must give him water because he is not well. I fill up the water again in the same soiled jug and give him water. What happens? He again falls ill. No. We have to have realization. What is the realization, your perception? Oh, I must, because there is a dirt in this, so I have to clean it, fill fresh water, give it to him. So cleaning that utensil is Rajoguna. Understanding that cleanliness is required for storing the water is called Rajoguna. Giving that clean water to the person is called the Satoguna. While giving it, he has become well. You see, the same karma of giving water in the same jug has been done 3 times. Once through Tamoguna, once through Rajoguna, and once through Satoguna. The differences are different. The results are different. What happened? So then we say that, oh, he has come out of his illness. That means he has come out of his Tamoguna to the Rajoguna. The one who has been given. You understood something like that? This is what we say. That means the perception. Jug is same. Dirt is same. The dirt which was there, which has been washed off. The dirt is same. And the water is same. You gave the water is also same. There is no difference. Collection of water is from the same source. You understand that? So everything is same. If you change your perception of it, of seeing or experiencing it, then automatically the karma phalas. This is how we exhaust our karmas. If I do not change my gunas through identification, through the studies of the Shastras, if I do not change my gunas through identification, through dhyanam, tapasya, and ashirvadam and things like that, if I don't do that, whatever method, we have explained this, there are so many methods are there. If I don't do my effort towards working towards that, I will not be in a position to change my perception from tamoguna to satoguna. So long I do not change, I will not be in a position to get exhausting that karma phalas, that what we have done. And so long we don't get exhausted, what happened? Our janana marana in the same status will continue. Otherwise, the moment you change your perception of looking towards the world through the different gunas, automatically the previous experience what was there has been exhausted. A new experience might have created that can be exhausted through the satoguna again, and that again through the other sannyasa. We can do that. So this is how one has to travel. That is why Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya said that being in the same body, we can have Brahma Sakshatkara is by changing this perception of looking at the world through different gunas. See how beautiful it is. Very simple. So everything is inside you. The only thing, this is what is called purification process. In order to do that only, we have explained all the Chandogya Upanishad and other Upanishads and other practices. So many years we are talking here, we are preaching here, is all meant for what? This purification, and ultimately reach the state through which we can perceive the world in a different way. Why is it again necessary? One more question. Why is it necessary? Because when you perceive the world in through highest guna, let's say sato guna, when your experience is based on that guna, then the karma phalas are totally different. When the karma phalas are totally different, exhausting of those karma phalas are much easier in the path of the Satyanveshana or Sannyasa. Then attainment of the Brahman or Brahma Sakshatkaram is easier. Directly functioning through the Tamoguna, perceiving the world through Tamoguna, I will not be able to attain the Brahma Sakshatkaram. No. I will have to change it from there to there, there to there, there to there. Then only I will be in a position to that. So during the process of living with the Jivatma, if I reach the status of the Satoguna and perceiving the world through Satoguna, I will be closer to identification of the Brahman. Then I take sannyasa, then I take vanaprastha and sannyasa, and then the nirvana, moksha, mukti. Is why Vastu Samya Chitta Bhedat. So Chitta Bhedam has to be done by your Bhakta. 16th shloka says, Na chaika chitta tantram vastu tada pramanakam tada kim syat. Na chaika chitta tantram. An object is not dependent on one's mind. For it still exists whether or not it is perceived by that mind. Vastu, any bhuta outside you, that is existing, that is still there, that's always there. Whether you perceive it or not. Vastu's change is not because of your perceived changes. Vastu doesn't change, Vastu is there already. Prakriti is there. It is there. is not dependent on one's mind. For the Vastu to be remaining as it is, it doesn't require support of anybody's mind or perceiving capacity, nothing is required. The mountain is there, mountain is there, it's there. Whether you perceive it as big or small, or great or not, it is there, that's all. You perceive it to your promotion or your purification or your changes. The Vastu is same, Himalaya is same, Himalaya is same. Somebody said Himalaya is shrunk, somebody said Himalaya is growing, somebody said Himalaya is becoming smaller. Mountain is there, mountain is smaller, mountain is big, mountain is that, mountain is this. Doesn't matter. Vastu is there, that's all. Depending upon perceiving this, so the object is not dependent on one's mind, for it still exists whether or not it is perceived by the mind. So let us not try to change the object. What we have to understand from this? Let us not try to change the object by perceiving it differently. But the objective can be changed by perceiving it differently. The object need not be changed. It's the objective that has to be changed. Why? Because you are supposed to execute your living. You have got life, as I told you, life and living. You having a life and you having a living, your living has to be programmed according to the perception that you are perceiving through whichever gunas. So in order to do that, it is not that change of the object that is necessary, it is the objective of your perception is necessary. Why are you seeing that object as such is very important for you. The object is may not be important. You have to simplify this. This is the theory part of it. Simplify it. There is a photograph of God object. Looking, there are so many photographs the shopkeeper has kept in the shop. Number of Lord Shivas are there. Number of Vishnus are there. When you go there, do you feel any bhakti towards that? Got my point? Object. Changing of the object is not what I want. Then you buy one, any of those. Keep it in the house. Then you have a ritual, cleaning it, keeping it in a proper mandir. You decorated it to your suit, to your convenience. Lighted a lamp, brought beautiful flowers, made a garland, mala for that, abhushan. Puja samagris have been kept. Did the puja. That picture, that object which was there, and here, for you, it is different. But is the object different? Sincerely, is the object different? Object is not different. But your objective looking at that object has become different. Why? You started seeing the picture as God. Actually, it is not God. Actually, it's a picture painted by somebody, framed by Munna Khan. Get it in your mandir. You do the puja. He has become Bhagavan for you. Fine. Good. This is what is required. This is what he is trying to tell us. That object is not that important. It's the objective that is important. That means you are looking at the picture as the God is important for you, because you are looking at the object through your guna. Let me call it as Sato Guna. When I am seeing something as God, it is Sato Guna. No doubt about it. So when I am looking at it, I am looking at it through my Sato Guna. I can see the God. But an outsider comes and look at it, oh, your picture of Bhagavan Shiva is looking very nice. Have you heard? Somebody must have commented this, yes? Your mandir looks very nice. For him it is object, you see. His objective is totally different. But for you it is totally different. Am I clear? Do you understand? No? This is what he is trying to tell you. An object is not dependent on your mind. It is not necessary. Object remains whether your perception is such or not. The object remains, for it still exists whether or not it is perceived by that mind. It still remains as it is whether it is perceived by the mind or not. But for you, perceiving that through Satoguna is important for purification of yourself, for execution of your karmas and exhausting of your karmas, and attainment of liberation from the karma and attainment of the Brahma Sakshatkaram, Brahmanokam. Is why the perception of your, even though the object is same, the objective has to be different. The perception of the object has to be different according to your guna. Object remains same. Object doesn't change. As now explained to you about the photograph of the Bhagavan. Is not? Now you can understand it better. Yes. Is what he is trying to tell. Okay. I think 17th sloka we will take next class. Today we will close. Oh, 17. Next is 17.